Good morning. And I was doing a fine end of the work week day. And we'll try to finish off chapter 13 today with Satan's other man, the false prophet. Or as some like to say, the world, like religious person, the person that's going to bring together all the world's religions. That's what that belief is. So let's start with a prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you so much, Lord, for this time that get to look into your word and to help me to point out some things that are new and exciting and that will help us in our journey. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen. So, back to our painting here. False prophet would be the guy on the left here with the horns, and in this particular picture. And notice he's got his two fingers up. Some say that's the peace symbol. I'm not exactly sure on that. Let me move me down a little bit here. And up in the corner, you can see they got the red dragon all the way around with his tentacles out. You see the little strings, kind of like he's the puppet master. He's controlling everything that's going on. And we got the number 666 in the background, the number of the beast. And it mentions a leopard, the all-seeing leopard, just watching, ready to devour. Got the 10 crowns up here, and the those will be the horns. See, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, yeah, 10 horns. What else do we see here? The what do you call it? Antichrist there in the middle with his clawed hands and his lion-looking face with teeth, and he's ready for war. What else do we see in the picture? See, he's going to be doing battle, and he sees himself as the Antichrist, the pseudo-Christ, the person that the Jews at first are going to think is the real Messiah, and it's not. And that'll soon become very apparent, or it already has at this point in the battle, because he went into he desecrated the temple, and he went in and caused the what's that called? It's in Daniel 9:27, the desolation of. I gotta look up Daniel 9:27. I'm sure I got it here somewhere. It's also in Matthew 24. See if I can find the fastest. Probably think of it before I get to it. Abomination of desolation. So, on that note, let's see, I have anything else to tell you? Not at this point. I got some other things to show you after, having to do with numbers. But we'll jump into the text here. And here we're going to be talking about the false prophet. Already by itself, it tells you that he's going to be telling falsehoods, and he considers himself a prophet. And we see in this first verse here, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. So let's break that down a little bit. First, I should have said it yesterday. You notice beast is used a lot in the King James Version, and realize there's 2 different kinds of beasts. This particular beast in the Greek is theron, which is a dangerous wild beast, ferocious beast, someone that well, the other type of beast that we see in, like in Revelation 5:11, which would be the beast we see in heaven, that's not the best translation for it. It's more of a living creature. In the Greek, it's called zoon. It's where we get the word zoo. And so it has more to do with a living creature or zoology. So it could be any kind of, it doesn't necessarily mean a wild beast or a beast that, it could be it is a docile beast. So it's a little bit different characterization of, so let's go back to Revelation 13:11, and beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and this time he's coming up out of the earth, not the sea. And the earth is kind of symbolic for, how am I going to describe it? I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. Basically, that like coming out of the world system. In other words, someone who's adept, and that's where we get the idea that he's going to be like combining all the world religions and making everybody, like some say, kumbaya, meaning that we're all one. We all worship the same God. We all worship. There's no differences between us when it comes to religion. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. I got some verses to look at there. So in Matthew 7:15, beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are raving wolves. This is Jesus himself telling us this. And this is what we got here as a false prophet. And he's going to look good, he's going to act good, he's going to be our friend, but careful, because he's out for destruction, and he wants to control us. Also in Romans 16:18, for they that are such serve not our Lord Jesus Christ, but their own belly, and by good works our fair speeches deceive the hearts of the simple. This has to do with those that are false prophets. Some could say that some of the TV evangelists that seem to have jets and expensive cars and big luxury homes. Wonder where they get all that money from. Also over in 2 Corinthians 11:13 through 15, for such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into apostles of Christ, kind of what the Antichrist is doing. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Now Satan is, everybody kind of likes to describe him as a man with a pitchfork, and it's kind of ugly looking. Believe it or not, he was the most beautiful of all the angels. So don't be deceived by the eye that thinks Satan is some ugly-looking creature. He can be very, very appealing, both physically and with smoothness of tongue. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. So this is again talking about Satan's people, and here we're talking about the false prophet. I think I mentioned it yesterday that this forms what they call the unholy trinity, where you got Satan, who wants to be God, and you got the Antichrist, who's like a pseudo-Christ, or like Jesus Christ, and then you got the false prophet, who's like the Holy Spirit, except he's going to be an actual human being, where the Holy Spirit is a spirit. Back to some other things to point out about the two horns. And in Daniel, we have a good reference about what these two horns are and how it's signified. In Daniel 3, he had a vision. And I'll start the vision here, and I'll jump to the part that talks about the horns. Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had two horns, and the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the other came up last. So that's what Daniel is seeing. Now we're going to jump down to verse 20. I'm just going to talk about it a little bit. And the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia. This particular vision, by the way, it has to do with the four kingdoms, similar to Nebuchadnezzar's statue that Daniel had. And so again to the fourth creature, fourth beast that he saw, and it was the ram having two horns. That's where we get a little bit of an explanation of what the two horns represent. So it's interesting it stands for Media and Persia. And I'm going to read through verse 27. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So this horn and Grecia are going to have a battle. I'm reading some parts of this don't really apply for this situation, but some do. Now that being broken up, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the fullest, a king of fierce continence and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. That's indicative of the Antichrist. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, and he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper in practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. So ultimately, he's coming after us, and anyone else that gets in his way. And although his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Again, this is kind of talking about the Antichrist coming. At first, he's going to be the peacemaker. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So sooner or later, him and Satan and Christ himself are going to have it out. Of course, we know the winner of that one. And the vision of the evening and the morning which is told is true. Wherefore shut thou up this vision, for it shall be for many days. So it's going to be in the latter days. And I, Daniel, fainted, and was 6 certain days afterward I rose up and did the king's business, and I was astonished at the vision, but none understood it. In other words, it was something that he saw, he wrote it down, but he really didn't understand what it was going to mean. But for us, it's time to make sense of what it's going to mean. On to Revelation 13:12. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound had healed. Now we reflect on this deadly wound for a second. Well, first of all, he's going to have the same kind of power that the first beast had, the first beast being the Antichrist. But his job is subordinate. He's going to be working to get people to worship the Antichrist. And of course, they're all under the control of Satan. And causes the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. So they're going to try to fake. We don't know if it's fake. It might be, supernatural here. All we know is that the Antichrist is somehow going to be appear to die. He's going to be injured in the head somehow, and that he's going to appear to die, and he's going to come back to life. So he's going to have the appearance similar to what Jesus did, for sure, of being rose from the dead. But a lot of prophecy experts I've heard talk about it. They think either they're just going to fake it and make it look like it, or that maybe Satan does have some power over bringing him back to life. Revelation 13:3. We remember that this is where the wound, where we heard about the wound the first time. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. So because of this situation, everybody turns to him like he's the Messiah, the Christ, and they're going to think he really is the Christ, and they're going to worship him. So it's really important that anyone that's listening to this, and it's during the tribulation, that you pay attention to the fact that he is not who he says to be, and that he may be talking wonderfully, and he may seem like he's God's gift to mankind. But just keep in mind that the Bible is 100% true. Try to get yourself on a copy of it and read the whole Bible, but particularly the parts of Revelation between chapter 6 and 19, and to get an idea of what to look for when it comes to what's really happening and who really comes in at the end and saves mankind, which is the real Jesus Christ. So Revelation 13:13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So Satan does have some powers, and we saw this over in Exodus the first time when I remember when Moses went in front of Pharaoh the first time. He turned a stick into a snake, and Pharaoh's sorcerers and what do you call them? Well, you'll see it here in a minute when I bring it up. It's in Exodus 7:11 and 12. The Pharaoh also called the wise men and the sorcerers. Now the magicians of Egypt, they also did in like manner with their instruments. They basically they copied what Moses did. In this case, for they cast down every man his rod, and they became serpents. But Aaron's rod swallowed up their rods. Big difference was that Aaron's rod actually ate the other rods, showing who had the better. The fact is that they could pull off that illusion, and so that's what I'm kind of pointing out here is that even Satan has power to make things happen that appear to be godly. Also in Matthew 24:24, we see Jesus talking about it. For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. So you Christians out there that are here during this time frame, remember these words from Jesus himself, that be careful of these. Don't be deceived. And one more place over in Numbers. There came out, Numbers 16:35. And there came out a fire from the Lord and consumed the 250 men that have offered incense. In this case, this was a time when he called down fire from God for real and consumed people. So Satan again, Antichrist is trying to mimic the Lord. Okay, Revelation 13:14. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth, that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound by a sword and did live. So now we're going to make a statue that looks to worship to, and this is where we're going to get into a little bit of a hairy situation, because just like in Daniel's time when Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego refused to bow down to any Christians out there that want to survive the tribulation will probably end up getting killed for it, but don't bow down to this beast. Do not take his mark, no matter what it is. And I'm sorry, you probably won't be able to buy and sell. You probably have to forage for food on your own somehow. But keep tough. And again, you might be martyred, but the end is really going to be great when we all get into the Millennium Kingdom, and that we'll be all together. And you only got a few years to go. I know it sounds like a long time, but try to hang in there. So another verse that talks about this is in 2 Thessalonians 2:9-12. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all power and signs and lying wonders. This is Paul talking to the Thessalonians. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Let's talk a little bit about those who are following the Antichrist. I really believe that he's the man. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion that they should believe a lie. So because they turn to this man, the false prophet, false Antichrist, God's going to let them do what they want and not try to draw them back. So if you're out there evangelizing for God during the tribulation, it's going to be a lot tougher because you're not going to have the same ability to try to convince others. Probably the best thing to do is just to, when the opportunity exists, definitely talk to someone about Jesus. But most of the time, you're probably going to have to try to find ways to survive yourself. And they all might be damned who believed not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. That's the other thing, is you're going to have all those people out there that think that they got it made. All those Christians that complained about everything are gone. That now we can have fun and party and no one's complaining about it. So also in Daniel 7:25, and he shall speak great words against the Most High. This is talking about the Antichrist again. And shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, a times, and a dividing of time. Again, that's 3.5 years that this thing's he's gonna have power. Revelation 13:15. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So again, this is what I was just talking about, is that if you don't worship the beast, you are going to be killed. So best thing to do is try to avoid the situation altogether, but ultimately you may have to give up your life for the Lord. Over in Daniel 7:25, it mentions this also. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints. Oh, I already read that one. 13:16. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Very, very important verse. Do not do this. If you do this, you will not be able to get to heaven at all, ever. It's very, very important. Better to be martyred and to live with God for eternity than to spend the rest of your life in the lake of fire and brimstone. Do not take this mark. Do not worship the beast. I think that based on some other verses, that I'm going to mention a few of them, could be a very interesting time as to what that mark is. I have a feeling that based on the fact that in Genesis 6 is a similar situation where whatever they did, whatever happened in Genesis 6, caused the whole world to be destroyed except for 8 people. And I think the same thing with this mark. Whatever it is going to somehow alter something about you, that you will no longer be human, and you won't be able to be salvation is gone forever. So it's just a warning out there. Again, this is a long ways away. We're talking. This is the midpoint of the tribulation. So, not saying it's like tomorrow or anything. Don't anybody try to say that I'm saying anything about current events. This is way in the future. At least 3.5 years from now. Revelation 19:18. That ye may eat the flesh of captains, and flesh of kings, flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and them that sit on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond. So this is just an indication of what's going to happen to these people that take the mark. You're going to end up dying at the end of the another place in 2 Chronicles. It talks about that whosoever would not seek the Lord God of Israel should be put to death, whether small or great, whether man or woman. This just references to that verse there that said that who's going to be in that group of people. In Revelation 14:9, there's also going to be warnings about this from angels flying through the heavens, from the 2 witnesses, from the 144,000 Jewish witnesses. And the 3rd angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand. same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. By the way, this is in Revelation 14:9 through 11. We'll get to this again next week, but I'm just showing what's going to happen to those that take the mark. And the smoke of their torment ascendeth up forever and ever, and they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name. And this is another reference to another type of mark, but this is actually a good mark. In Revelation 7:3, if you remember when we talked about it, saying, "Hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." So again, this is a good mark that God's going to put on the foreheads. So I'm thinking that this mark might be trying to duplicate something that God has already done, and that Satan is trying to mimic him. So it's important to find out, realize that these particular marks were given to these people by God himself. And I'm not sure you can even see them. I'm not sure they're going to be visible, and it doesn't talk anything about the hands either. So in Revelation 14:1, and looked, and lo, a Lamb stood on the Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having his Father's name written in their foreheads. So this is a different mark that's given to the 144,000. So I wanted to point this out only to make sure you see the difference. That there will be 144,000 Jewish virgins who receive a protection from God, and they will receive a mark in their foreheads. But that's something totally different, and this has to do. So the way, I guess, to identify this mark of the beast is the fact that this mark is coming from the Antichrist, who wants you to worship him. And we got another seal that's mentioned by God in Revelation 22:4. And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And so again, this is way after the tribulation is over in Revelation 22. We're all in the millennium. This is even after the millennium kingdom. So I just want to show that there's two different types of seals. Some put on the children of God, but the difference being, again, that you'll be worshiping the Antichrist. But henceforth let no man trouble me, for I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. That's a different kind of mark. That's a mark where basically taking up our cross and following the Lord. With our whole body, soul, mind, and spirit, we belong to the Lord. Now, some concerns. These are some things that, if you do take the mark, that could happen. Will happen to you. Over in Revelation 14:9, and the third angel followed him, saying with a loud voice, "If any man worship the beast in his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or on his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, and shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment shall ascend forever and ever." That means permanently, forever. "And they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whosoever receiveth the mark of his name." Also over in 16:2, "And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth." And this is what we're going to be getting into when we get into the 7 vial judgments. So the first vial is going to be poured out on the earth. "And there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image." So those that took the mark are going to end up getting these sores of some sort. And also in Revelation 19:20, it says, "And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet, that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them that had received the mark of the beast." See, those who receive the mark are going to be deceived by the false prophet and by the Antichrist. "And them that worshipped his image, these both were cast alive into a lake of fire burning with brimstone." That's the fate of anyone who takes the mark of the beast. So back to our text, Revelation 13:17. "And that no man might buy or sell," this is anyone who takes the mark, "won't be able to buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name." That's an interesting term, the number of his name. And it mentions it in verse 18 here. "Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and the number is 666. Now, it's getting a little late, but I found these neat. I thought I'd just mention real quick. Some numbers have meaning in the Bible. Hebrew numbers, particularly Hebrew and Greek numbers, all have an associated number with them. And the number has meaning in the Bible. I thought I'd just mention a few. There's quite a few, but I only picked out a few that might be of interest. And number one is the most important. It's a reference to unity in God, Him being the first. And it's also the first commandment, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, and might. Number two, being a prime number, the number of witness required by law in the Old Testament and New Testament. And two witnesses, Israel and the church, and then two witnesses in Revelation 11:4. So two has to do with being a witness. Three is the number for God. It's a reference to the Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Another interesting thing about it is it's a word for God, and the God in Hebrew is Elohim. In Hebrew, is a plural noun which requires at least three individuals because of the ending. The EEM in Hebrew designates it as a plural, and in Hebrew, I believe that their plural starts at three. They have another term called duo, which means two. So, like we have, we basically have either one or a couple. I guess we got couple. But most of the time when we pluralize something, it could be two or more. Where in Hebrew, it's three or more when you pluralize it. The number 4 stands for the world, like the four directions of the wind, north, south, east, and west. And on the fourth day, the heavens and the earth were completed. 6 is a number for mankind. I think we've all heard that at one time or another. Also, 6 is one less than 7, and the 7 is a number for completion. Man, in other words, man is incomplete without God. You got the 1 for God, and you got the 6 for man. You combine those two, so you look to God, and you got 7. That's completion. That's my next number. It's a prime number too, and number for completion. 6 days of creation plus 1 day of rest gives a complete week. It's also a number for spiritual perfection, and the Greek name for Christ, which is Christos, consists of 7 letters. Number 8 is a number that always represents our Lord, and the Lord's number in Greek totals 888. It's also the number for new beginnings. So we know that through Jesus Christ we have a new beginning. 10 is a number for Christians, and you got the 10 Commandments as the perfect law. It has to do with perfection. We're trying to achieve perfection, but if you notice that our judgment comes before our perfection. Number for perfection or cleansing, perfection, because in other words, the number for perfection is 7, and without God, the Trinity, which is 3, equals 10. and that's when we become perfect. It's through the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Noah was in the 10th generation, and there are 4 duties of the world, 4 to God and 6 duties of mankind to one another. Also, the church at Smyrna is told that it will have affliction 10 days. 12, the number of God's perfect witness to the world. So God, remember, was 3, and the world is 4. So 3 times 4 is 12. So it's the perfect witness. You also have the 12 tribes of Israel. It's still a witness to the work of God and His great love for all mankind. And there were 12 apostles. Also, the number of governmental perfection is 12. 24, that's a number we've run into already in Revelation. And I think I mentioned this. I didn't know it, I kind of figured that out on my own a little bit, but I was pretty close to true. The number of elders mentioned in Revelation 4 is 12 times 2. These elders probably, and it's also 6 times 4. I don't remember what 6 times 4 was for, but whatever 6 was man, and 4 was, what was 4? Oh, the world. So it represents the world, 6 times 4. World of mankind. So it's a group of people, in other words. And it's also 12 times 2. These elders are representative of God's people from all the world, from all nations. Okay? That's where the 6 times 4 comes from. And also note 12 tribes of Israel and 12 apostles, the church, God's 2 witnesses to the present world. So between Israel, between the 12 tribes and the 12 apostles, which represent the church, we have the perfect world. We got 37 is an interesting number. It's not really, the person who put this together was a theologian. I forgot his name now, but that popular. You'd understand. You've heard the name probably if you've been around these circles for a while. Behringer, it was. That's what it was. And he couldn't find anything for 37 except it appears in both 666 and 888. Then the last couple that we all heard many times is 666. That's 6 is a man claiming to be God, 3 6s. In other words, it's man trying to be perfect, a powerful form and majesty without God. That's how it comes up to be the number for the Antichrist. The number 666 occurs exactly 4 times in the Bible, 3 in the Old Testament and once in the New Testament. In both Ezra and Revelation, the number is associated with a name. Remember, it mentioned that the number of his name when it comes to the reference in Revelation. And then the 888 is the number of our Lord, 3 8s. And if you add up the 3 8s of number 3 and number 8 and number 37, Jesus is the perfect witness. In other words, 3 being the witness, being God, 8 being the new beginnings, and 37, if you had multiplied those together, you get 888. So I thought you might find that kind of interesting. And that's all I have for today. So we'll do a quick prayer. Oh, dear Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this time to look into your word. And be with everyone this weekend. Keep them safe. And that they all have a great weekend this weekend. And we'll see them all again Monday morning, Lord. And that love you so. And we'll talk to you later. I love you. In Jesus' precious name I pray. Amen. Got what I was doing there. So that's have a great weekend, and I will hopefully see everybody in church Sunday. We got men's fellowship on Saturday also. So I planned on being out at the church about 8 o'clock for anyone who wanted to come. And we'll talk to you all later.